Cash or card? How did you pay for the last thing you bought? Well, cash use is dwindling, and it has been for years, but it is still crucial for many of us. Let me introduce you to Margaret. She's 90 years old and lives in the lovely village of Ayton, which has no cash machine.
I can do bank transfers, I've done those, but there are still quite a few occasions when cash is needed, so you do have to go there. And then occasionally you might receive a cheque, and that has to go to a post office to be paid in, you know, so it's not easy.
Margaret would have to catch the bus to Eyemouth for the post office that's found inside a garage in an industrial estate with an hour's wait for the return bus home.
So at the moment, elderly and people who have mobility problems and don't have their own transport, even who live in Eyemouth, do not use that local one because it's just completely impractical.
The post office isn't the only option. There's an ATM in the town centre, but when the co-op shutters come down, it means Eyemouth is card only between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that's when the machine is working.
There's no kindness to what Link's doing. I know they base it on all their figures and statistics, but in a rural setting where the population is substantially higher for people in later life, it's just not fair.
Repeated problems with out-of-order machines has caused a stir with locals, and the organisation Link, in charge of monitoring services, did investigate, but deemed the current setup was enough.
So the machines in Eyemouth should have the capacity to deal with access to cash needs. Yes, there have been reliability problems, but we do see that with ATMs from time to time. But what generally happens is that the engineers get out there pretty fast and get it working again because of that commercial incentive for them to do so. So we'll keep looking at Eyemouth and make sure that that is happening. But we're confident, based on the assessments we've done, that the access to cash there is sufficient. And there is a key bit of context here, which is that, yes, there's still millions of people relying on cash. But since COVID, withdrawals in Scotland have gone down by 50%.
Eyemouth is not alone. Selkirk is also experiencing repeated problems with access to cash, particularly when the farmers' market is on and the nearby ATM runs out of money.
It's down again. It's so frustrating. We only have one cash machine in Selkirk, and when it's down, it really inconveniences cash-only businesses. So our current system is 25p per transaction, plus 3% on top. It's not ideal.
People that know us know that we only take cash, so they bring cash along, and other people, some have cash, a lot don't, and they'll either go away and look for it, or I'll lose the sale.
There is a huge lack of cash in the town at the moment. We've got one cash machine for the whole area, and really at the weekends when it's really busy, you know, people are going out, it runs out really quickly. So therefore it has an impact on the shops and the local businesses here.
The difficulty getting access to cash is one experienced in smaller communities in the Borders, and Link say they've helped open 30 banking hubs right across Scotland. Hawick is one of the bigger towns in the Borders, with plenty of choice when it comes to accessing cash. But even here, cutbacks are being felt. Santander is closing its bank branch on the High Street in July, and the TSB van is being discontinued in favour of access via the banking hub over in Jedburgh. And that banking hub was born out of necessity after the last branch pulled out of the town.
So the reason for Jedburgh's banking hub was because their last bank in town announced their closure. So it opened in July of last year. We initially had it in a temporary space, and then it moved into this beautiful building later on last year. It provides a safe, welcoming space, not only for your older population, but also your vulnerable customers as well. It gives them the time to access cash at a time where it suits them, between Monday and Friday 9 to 5, and also if they need to, they don't have to travel to their nearest branch, they can come here and speak to their community banker.
The issue has caught the attention of local politicians.
It is very frustrating because it's the criteria that is set around the banking hubs and access to cash, and I want to be able to try to change that criteria that recognises the rurality of some of the border towns such as Eyemouth, Hawick and Selkirk.
The Santander branch in Hawick is closing in July, and this Bank of Scotland branch in Peebles is open for the final time today. Both banks say that more of their customers are choosing to use their online services instead. But that won't stop people like Margaret from campaigning for better access to cash and working to get politicians on her side as well.
At the moment, I'm just going around some of the local community councils, explaining the situation to them and asking them to join with me in agitating. I'm calling myself a little border terrier, and I'm going to be nipping at the heels of these politicians.
Cash use may be in decline, but it seems there's a fight to keep it from being withdrawn entirely.
Yeah, this will be an issue that gets a lot of people talking, and our reporter Isla is with us in the studio for more on this. So Isla, we heard from Margaret there, self-styling herself on a border terrier. She feels very passionately about it. Are others, though, experiencing the same kind of problems as Margaret?
Absolutely. Margaret was the perfect example, because even at 90 years old, she's still trying to learn online banking, but she still wants that access to cash. Another case study that we spoke to, a really extreme example, is that they used to hand their card and their PIN number over to a neighbour who would then go into town and take money out for them, really opening themselves up to being vulnerable and potentially being taken advantage of. Now, interestingly, since the cost of living crisis, more people have been returning to using cash over card because it helps them budget. Something about holding that money in their hands really sort of stops those impulse purchases. And I should also add that the Co-op has since been in contact with us, and they say that they are replacing the ATM, so it should prove to be more reliable going forward.
Now, Isla, we have been asking people for their views on the matter. What have people had to say?
We've had some fantastic responses online to our plea earlier today asking for what people think about this. Alan Forrest from Hoyk said he always uses cash in bars, restaurants and small shops, only uses card in supermarkets for the big shop, use it or lose it. Wendy Sawyer says often, especially small purchases, we were forced into card payments in COVID times, sadly, and cash machines and banks are closing daily. Very hard to budget effectively using card payments. Again, what we've been hearing a little bit about earlier. Pauline from Dumfries said she prefers cash because it's easier to keep track of, not to mention card payments cost small businesses a fortune in fees. And finally, this is my favourite comment, I think. Kerry says cash is king. I work in a shop and people are using it more and more, including younger people. So a lot of really passionate responses when it comes to using cash.
Absolutely.
Isla, thank you very much.